Okay. So StreamYard has alerted me that I am now live. So now I just need for YouTube to let you know that I'm live, and then we can begin with yet another episode of VypDrive. Good morning. How are you guys doing? I know we're on here pretty early today, but I will get into that in a minute. But what is happening? I think we got a few people out there, not too many yet, but it is kind of early for the procedure. So I don't know, but we got to go when we got to go. So I'll give you all a few minutes to come in, and then we will go ahead and begin. Did YouTube send out the notification yet? No, YouTube has not. Oh, no, yep. They just did. Okay, YouTube just sent out the notification. So people should be coming in. Oh, there you are. We got Josephine out there. What's up, Josephine? How you doing? I mean, let me tweet this real quick. I see you, Josephine. I see you out there. What's going on? All right, let's see. Let me tweet this real quick. And then we will go to work here. Where is my come back to my Twitter. Oh, we got Tish out there. We got Eve at AO. We got the squad on deck. Even in the morning, the squad is here. I like it. And now I'm gonna tweet this out. All right, so the tweets have been sent. Cool. Got Tish. Got Evit. A. We got Doug. Nick Nimmin himself is in the chat. That goes up. All right, let's go ahead and get this party started, baby. Hold on. Let's see, what are we on? Where I do so many of these, I kind of lose track of what episode number I'm on, but I got it. So, this is VypDrive episode 97, baby. And we are bringing in a heavy hitter. One of the greatest on the platform at motivating you to grow your YouTube channel, baby. That's right. We got the other half of the Nimminati, Nick Nimmin, and coming up on VypDrive. And as Nick would say, we're starting right now. What's up, people? This your boy Viper, the man about tech, and welcome back to another episode of VypDrive. This is the podcast about tech, hosted by the man. Oh my God, I just messed my own intro. Try it again. This is the podcast about tech, hosted by the man about tech, and I'm bringing in the other half of the Nimminati. We have a YouTuber with over 600,000 YouTube subscribers. He tells you every week how to grow your YouTube channel. That's right. We are talking to the amazing Nick Nimmin. What's up, Nick? How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, man. And that intro is fire. Woo! I want that on my alarm clock. I'm going to wake up to that every day. That is just fire, man. Woo!
Yo, that's right. You know how we do, man. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to be here. Pumped up to, just be here on the show, talking to you, talking to, the people that are going to be listening to this, people that are going to be watching to this, and talking about YouTube, maybe tech. I don't even know where the conversation's going, but I'm fired up to have it. So thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
No doubt. That's one of the beautiful things about this podcast. This is a primarily tech podcast, but sometimes it can go anywhere. So some of you all might be wondering why we're starting this podcast so early on a Sunday morning. And that is because, for those of you all that are not aware, Nick is actually in Thailand. He lives in Thailand, and there is a 12-hour time difference between me and Nick. So we had to do this in such a way that it will be beneficial for him and me. So Right now it's 10 a.m. here in Chicago, and it's 10 p.m. over in Thailand. So that's why we're doing this now.
Yeah. So it's late at night for me, but I'm a night owl, so it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it's still kind of early. I'll probably be up for another 4 hours still, maybe even more than that. After this is done, then I'll chill a little bit, probably play some games. Next thing you know, the sun will be up, and I'll be going to bed. Like, what's going on? Why am I going to bed when the sun's up? That sort of thing. So we'll see how it all works out by the time the night's over.
There you go. Sounds like a plan, man. So I'm going to ask you the first question that I ask every first time guest on that I come on the show here. Nick, what brought you to YouTube?
So what brought me to YouTube is I was working with my brother, and we had a design/media service, and with that we picked up some difficult clients, and we both love creating things. If you can't tell, just through the content that we make, but we both love creating things. But those particular clients that we picked up were very difficult, and they kind of sucked the joy out of the creative process for us. Just micromanagement and just being difficult to work with in general. And because of that, we were having a conversation just saying basically that, we didn't want to, work with those particular clients anymore, and that we weren't even sure if we still wanted to do that anymore. And the D actually posed the question. He's like, well, what are we going to do? And, I didn't have an answer. He didn't have an answer. So we both started exploring different things. And one of the things that I started exploring at the time was internet marketing. And through internet marketing, I actually ended up partnering with a guy on a YouTube graphics kit over there. And we ended up making like $12,000 in a day on that particular project. And that, really opened my eyes in terms of the internet marketing side of things and how powerful that was. And I started digging in even deeper. And basically what I saw people talking about was, hey, YouTube is a great way to grow an email list. So I'm like, okay, then let me, start thinking about YouTube in terms of using that to grow an email list. I mean, it wasn't that easy. I didn't even want to be on camera. I didn't want to be on YouTube or anything like that. But I ended up, through a lot of internal struggle, actually starting the YouTube channel. And I wasn't doing, YouTube tips because I didn't know anything about YouTube at the time, right? I didn't know anything about, any of that stuff. I was just taking the skills that I had at the time, which were graphic design. I knew a little bit about video production or photography, really, and I was able to, apply that to my video. I was doing extra stuff for clients, helping them rank blog posts and things like that. So I was able to take some of that knowledge and apply it on the SEO side. And that is kind of the advantage that I had when I first came onto YouTube. And then after I had a nice handful of videos up, somebody reached out to me that I actually watched their channel. And they didn't reach out to me. I reached out to them first because they were crossing 100,000 subscribers, and they said, hey, if my content's ever done anything for you, send me a video and let me know. And I sent him a video and just explained, how valuable his channel was and, all the, value that I've gotten out of it. And he reached out right away and he's like, hey, I want to work with you on a different type of channel. I think the type of content that you're making is limiting your potential based on, the talents that you have, when it comes to doing this sort of thing. So I want to work with you on another channel. And I'm like, cool. Took the opportunity, worked on that other channel for about 9 months, a little bit longer than that with the planning and all that. But during that process, I ended up just getting burned out. I just couldn't handle the workload because I wasn't, generating literally any money from YouTube. I wasn't generating, or basically I wasn't generating any money from it, but I was putting a majority of my time into it. So basically, I would wake up, and my time was spent either, doing client work or making videos. And in order to see through the opportunity on YouTube, I had to make sure that I was putting enough time, on YouTube. So what I ended up doing is I got myself to a point to where, from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed, I was working on, one thing or the other. And after, 9 straight months of that, I just couldn't handle the workload. And I ended up having to make a difficult choice of, okay, if I'm going to do this YouTube thing, this particular channel takes me way too long to make the content. And I don't have any immediate monetization. It's more of a long game. And I understand that now, but at the time, even though I knew YouTube is a long game, it just wasn't deeply ingrained in me yet. So I walked away from an amazing opportunity there. And I see that now, but at the time it was like, hey, I just can't handle this. So I need to do something else. And that came back to my current channel. And with my current channel, before I came back to it, I built a website so that I could make sure that I am, targeting the right people. And I still wasn't doing YouTube tips at the time. I was just making content just based on things that people that were making videos would care about. And that was because I needed to get my website in front of people that were making video, content so that they could buy the things that I was selling on the website from the store, and so that they would buy the services that I was offering at the time. And that project combined with YouTube allowed me to step away from the design service that I was doing with my brother and go all in on, serving content creators in one way or another.
So you were working on the other channel with that other creator, and you got burned out. So you came back to your main channel and started working on your main channel, but
yeah,
you were trying to drive traffic, I guess, to your website so people will buy your product. So I guess we can say that is what led to the transition of you making videos about YouTube tips, because you were trying to get tools in front of creators that were making video content, and that's how you just gradually transition over into what you do now, right?
Sort of, yeah. So basically, at the time, like before I came back to the channel, I was making videos. Like my very first video was how to overcome camera shyness, and then I was talking about things like how to stay productive when you're working at a coffee shop. How to remove blemishes from your photos. And I was thinking, before I left my current channel, went and worked on the other one for a while. I wasn't really even thinking of targeting, to be honest with you. I was just like making the content that was relevant to the things that I was experiencing and the things that I thought people, would want to know, and I'd be able to add value to people through that content. And then ultimately get them into an email list, right? So, so I was basically doing things that was more freelancer based, and making video is part of the freelancer world as well. So when I came back to the channel, I was like, okay, now I need to be 100% for video creators. So I stayed on the general video content, like how to come up, like how to name a YouTube channel, how to come up with ideas for videos, like that kind of thing. And again, just sharing the things that I was going through at the time. And I made an SEO video on how to rank videos in search. And in that particular one, that was the first one that I actually talked about anything like strategy wise or anything about, like a step-by-step, like, hey, if you're wanting to get views, this is one of the things that you can do to get views. And people really loved that video, and they started asking me for more videos like that. So because of that, I started kind of reframing how I was thinking about what I was doing. And I was like, okay, well, let me talk about some of these things that aren't, because like removing blemishes from Photoshop, from an image, like that video is so easy to make, like it's an effortless video. So I started thinking like, okay, what can I start doing with this content in order to like really make sure that I'm adding value to, these video creators that are watching my stuff. And so I started just sharing literally everything that I knew about my experiences that I was going through on YouTube, the experience that I had with my other channel growing that one, it's like 15,000 subscribers, on that one. So that one did well also. But just sharing, all the things that I learned in that process. And while I was working on that other channel, part of the deal there was that I had to be consuming YouTube-based information, and I had to be, reading, different articles on YouTube and things like that, so I could get a deeper understanding. And then as I started making that content on my my current channel, and I started going more into the things about, like, hey, if you want to get people to watch more videos easily, then, direct them to other content, just little things like that. Like as I started going into those sorts of things, and I started having people reach out to me for consulting. So at the time, which I'm not doing at the moment, but when they were reaching out for consulting, I was like, hey, this is cool, but I'm not, like a consultant person. Right? So I'm like, okay, so I turned down like the first like nice handful of people that reached out. And then finally I told, that same exact thing to somebody when they reached out. I'm like, yeah, it's not really my thing. And they're like, I would just love your help. It doesn't have to be like any like special thing. So I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I started working with them, and I massively, helped them with their channel. And I was like, okay, I helped them. So let me take all the information that I use to help them, and the next person that reaches out, I'll work with them too and see if I can help them. And I kept doing that over and over again. And then I started offering like channel reviews and things like that. And the next thing you know, I had access to like tons and tons of channels. I was working with like a nice handful of creators, and that started giving me deeper insights into the things that actually matter on YouTube, and the things that work on YouTube for some channels and don't work for other channels. And it just gave me a lot more data to work with than just the type of content that I was making. And that's a really important thing when it comes to YouTube, because you see all this advice all over the place about, hey, this is the absolute thing that you have to make sure that you do. And in some cases that's legitimate, but in other cases, it's not always the case. Like, you hear the thing about, well, you have to use a face in your thumbnails if you want people to click on it. It's not the case. It depends on the type of content that you put out. Some people, like in your case, they might be more interested in seeing the tech that they're interested in than seeing your face on there, right? So, because of that, making sure that, people are testing and things like that is really important. But having access to all that data really gave me some insight into, all of the nuances into YouTube. And more so, it opened my mind up to the idea that, just because something works on one channel, it doesn't necessarily work on another channel. And it just started giving me a lot of, information data wise in terms of, that sort of thing. So.
Okay.
So then I started sharing that stuff, right? Like all the stuff that I would find on other channels, and all the things that were repeatable, and all of those sorts of things. So
yeah, that's a pretty cool gig to like have access to all that data, because we know if one thing about YouTube, if a kind of a data-driven, decision-based business, I mean,
it is.
You have to make decisions based on the data that you accumulate, because that's the best way to succeed on YouTube, no doubt, man.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, like if the goal is channel growth, then yeah, like using the data to make every single decision that you are making about your YouTube channel is critical, because we all have the things in our mind, and it's good to trust your intuition. But when you're trusting your intuition, it's important to make sure that you're testing your intuition as well. But it's good to trust your intuition, because that's how you actually make strategy and all that stuff. But it's good to trust that intuition. But at the end of the day, you have to apply things to what it is that you're going, and you have to see what it is that works. And then, like you're saying, you have to use the data that's in front of you to make the right decisions moving forward.
Yeah, because if you can't analyze and react to the data that you get on YouTube, you're not going to do very well. Shout out to those of y'all watching this podcast live. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me and Nick this morning. Thank you very much. If you want to donate to the podcast, you do have the option to super chat or become a channel member, or you can buy me a coffee. The link is in the description. None of this stuff is required, but anything that you're willing to do is greatly appreciated. Just appreciate you guys hanging out this early on a Sunday morning and on a Father's Day, no less. So happy Father's Day to all the fathers listening to the podcast and watching today. Thank you for rocking out. Shout out to those of y'all listening on audio only. Thank you for listening to another edition of VypDrive with me and Nick Nimmin. Appreciate you guys. This podcast is being recorded on Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all the fathers that are listening to the audio version. Thank you very much. If you would like to donate to the podcast, there will be links in the show notes. It's not required, but anything that you can donate or willing to donate is very greatly appreciated. Also, if you happen to be listening to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, please consider leaving a rating or review as to help more people discover VypDrive. And like I've been telling you guys, we want to get this show back into the top 200 of tech podcasts on Apple Podcasts. So please leave that rating or review on Apple Podcasts. Thank you very much. So Nick, every week you do a live stream on your channel. Mm-hmm. And it kind of fascinating to me because I think it was 2 years ago, our buddy John Prosser had noticed that if you live stream on some channels, it can have a negative effect if you upload like regular videos as opposed to just live videos. It can have a negative effect. And I was one of the people that noticed that it would kind of have a negative effect on my channel growth. So that's why I ultimately started a second channel to move these live streams over to do them on their own channel. But you do your live streams on your channel, your regular channel. You don't have a second channel for live streams. And not only do you do live streams on your channel, you do long live streams, anywhere from 3 to 6 hours usually. But your channel has only grown. It has no negative effect on your channel. And I think I talked to you about this a year ago, and we got into it. So let's get into it a little bit more now.
Sure.
Why is it? Why would you say that live streaming while you're trying to make regular non-live videos? What is it about your channel that live streaming has seemed to been like a boon to your channel and it hasn't negatively affected you and your channel growth?
In my particular case, basically, I provide the same service on my live streams that I do with my video content.
Yep.
And a big gap that happens a lot is when people go live, they have the side of things, like one of the beauties of live streaming is being able to connect with your community. And because of that, like in your case, for example, or in John's case, like if you're a tech person and you're going live and you're just like randomly talking about tech and then you're talking about like a bunch of other things and it's more of like just a hangout, then in that situation, like your audience is more prone to watching content, on the specific tech products and things like that. So like in your situation or John's, I think that if you guys were to, like in his case, if he were to do like a live stream that was very similar to his actual video content, I think he'd be fine. In your case, if you were to do live streams that were similar to your video content, but with a personal touch, I think those would do fine as well. But the big disconnect that typically happens is people will go live on a channel and it will just be more of like a hangout and, answering questions and like that sort of thing. But the actual value that the people get out of the content typically isn't necessarily there in the live streams. And because of that, when people are coming in and they're watching that replay, they just don't get the same thing, out of it. So in situations like that, like even on yours, like I still believe that you would be fine to actually go live on your main channel, but then just unlist the live streams after they're done, and then just put a playlist on your homepage where people could go and consume those there if they wanted to. And the reason for that is because, when YouTube has the option to suggest your new content to people, you want them suggesting that last video. You don't want them suggesting that live stream because that live stream isn't like a core piece of your content. Right. I do that same exact thing. After a while, I started doing that as well, to where I started unlisting all of mine. Recently, I've left them up because people are still, going in there quite a bit while everybody's inside. But before that, I was unlisting them. And the reason I would unlist them is because, if YouTube's going to suggest something or recommend something on the platform to somebody that hasn't been exposed to me before, I want it to be a very easily consumable piece of content that even if I didn't go live, right, even if I wasn't live streaming, to where they would still be able to consume that in the event that, something happens and I end up deciding not to live stream in the future or something like that. So I want to make sure that the content that they're being introduced to is my best. Right. Because I want to get that person, convert them into a subscriber. Maybe they'll get a notification for my stream later. But like the content that YouTube is suggesting to them, I want it to be the best stuff. And the best stuff in my situation is my video content. So because of that, I think that, if you were to do something similar, I think that you would have a similar result in terms of the live streams not really negatively affecting anything that much. You might see a dip right when you go live, but then after that live stream is done and you mark it as unlisted, there's a really good chance, and I've seen this on more than one channel, not just mine, there's a really good chance that video would come back to the typical view counts that it was getting over before you started going live.
Definitely, yeah. I think you hit it right on the head. Like, your live stream content is so similar to your regular content that, like you said, there's no like dip, there's no drop off. People are getting what they expect even when you go live. So I think that's a big part. And I know
it's even deeper because it takes the complicated nature of my regular content, and then it allows a place where people can actually ask questions about that stuff. And you know how it is. Like, when you're trying to figure out YouTube, there's a lot of questions. So having somebody that's just right there to where you can just put a question in a form and then they answer that thing that's on the top of your mind. Like, there's tons of value. There's tons of value in that when it comes to those particular streams. So it's like the video content, but with a personal touch.
Yeah, you are doing it perfectly. Like I said, your live stream is I wouldn't say it's a supplement, but it's actually just an extension of the content that you do normally, and that's why I think your live stream do so well. Alex Jackson, thank you for the super chat, sir. Appreciate you donating, man. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate you.
Another thing that I would like to mention also, and I mention this in my live streams quite a bit when people ask me the question about live streaming, is a really good example of the thing that we're talking about right now. I'm sure you're familiar with Video Influencers channel.
Yep.
Okay. So like on the Video Influencers channel, what they do is they actually do a live stream, but it's more like a live recorded video, right? It's longer, but it's like a live recorded video. They stay focused on one central topic. And for their audience that wants to learn about that topic and they learn about that from the person they're interviewing, that's a huge win for them because the entire conversation is focused around a specific topic that they're trying to help people with. So it's packaged just like a video, which is great for the replay, great for growing the channel, great for long-term exposure of that content. Whereas mine and a lot of people, when they do live streams, it's more of a hangout. And the quality is a little bit lower than the videos. It's a little bit loose. Sometimes it'll take 5 minutes to get to the actual content itself because you're doing shout outs, you're mentioning sponsors, all this other stuff that makes that replay just not a good piece of content to just, happen to somebody on somebody's homepage.
Right. Yeah. Excellent point, man. Like Beth says in the chat, live stream with no replay value or channel killer. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Not a good look. Not a good look at all. So, this is a tech podcast, so I want to talk to you a little bit about tech. Obviously, I had D on a few days ago, and D was telling me that you're not really big into the tech thing. Like, I think I was talking to him about how he updates his iPhone every year, but you don't really update your iPhone that much. So, what iPhone do you have currently?
Oh, I've got the new one. Yeah, I update my iPhone every year. Yeah, I update my iPhone, but in terms of like the tech side of tech, I'm not really into it. Like, for example, if you ask me any details about the computer, I won't be able to tell you anything except maybe the hard drive space. Same thing, I just picked up a MacBook Pro for the first time. And same thing with that, like I might be able to tell you some of the specs, but I can't tell you like all of them because I just don't really know. I just don't care. Like, I just want stuff to work. Right. Yes. So like, I don't go really deep on the tech. Same thing, even with cameras. Like, I know how to use a camera and I know the functions of a camera, but in terms of when we start getting down into like sensors and, all that stuff, I'm just like, okay, my thing is I just need it to work and I need it to give me something quality. And as long as it's doing that, I don't care what's the engine running it, so to speak.
Gotcha. All right. So let's talk about what are some of the everyday tech that Nick Nimmin uses.
Okay, so a Rodecaster Pro. I'm sorry. So basically, my mic right now is being routed through a Rodecaster Pro. I cannot praise this thing enough. So they just did an update, so I'm still modifying my my settings because it allows you to fine tune like all of their processing in there. So I'm still working on that part. So it might sound great right now, or it might be a tad off. I'm not sure yet. But basically, this thing is a dream. I absolutely love it. I use it for my podcast. I use it for my live streams. I'm using it right now, and I just absolutely love it. The next thing that I use on a regular basis is my Stream Deck. That's, right here. That helps me with my live streams. I also use it to control like the lights in my place and, like that kind of stuff as well. So I absolutely love this thing. What else? Camera wise, I'm rolling with a handful of Sony A6500s. All of them have the Sigma 16 millimeter lens on them so that everything's consistent no matter what it is that I'm using. Then I've got some other lenses for them as well, but the main base that I'm using is the 6500. And then I'm thinking of retiring it and just swapping it with the Sony or the 90D. I also have a Canon 70D for one of the sets that I have as well. I absolutely love that camera, or 80D, I'm sorry. The 70 is what I actually built the channel on. And then I eventually upgraded to that. And then now I'm thinking of retiring that and getting or just moving one of the Sonys into that spot, or getting a 90D for that. And then, of course, for my live streams, instead of just using a normal camera or a webcam, I use the Canon M50 with a 12 millimeter manual lens on it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you said you have the, so which iPhone do you have? You say you have the 11. Do you have the 11 Pro, the 11 Pro Max? Which one do you have?
I have the 11 Pro.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have the 11 Pro. I've got the 12.9 iPad, not the newest one that came out, but the one right before it. So I probably won't upgrade this, and this is probably what Dee's talking about. I'm probably not going to upgrade this one, but once the next one comes out, then I'll probably be ready for an upgrade at that time.
Gotcha. Okay, so I got a particular question. Since I know you have an iPhone 11 Pro and you have the 2018 iPad Pro, it sounds like a lot of creators they praise Apple because Apple products work so well with their creative flow. So is your iPhone and your iPad, are those involved in your creative flow at all? And if so, how?
They are, and they're involved in my creative flow because one of the things that I use my iPad for is it's great for navigating through my YouTube stats. So basically, I go into Chrome, I put it into desktop mode, and then I go through and I look at my analytics through my iPad, and I'll screenshot things. I'll screenshot and I'll circle them so I can go deeper on my computer if I want, or just so that I remember, to file it away so that something that brought my attention. So I'll use those for screenshots, and then of course the cloud will go ahead and just make them ready on my phone. Since I did pick up the MacBook Pro recently, sometimes I'll just drop stuff, over into that as well, for the sake of, if I decide to do something in Photoshop there, or, something like that, just so I can have those as well. But yeah, I'm actually really enjoying the ecosystem side of Apple. I think that that's really the biggest selling point, because in terms of the phone, I mean, it feels good and, all that stuff, the camera's good, but I mean, really it's a phone. I mean, it's similar to, a lot of the other phones, there's, from my non-tech brain, like there's, if we got into the nuances of sensors, all that good stuff, then you'd probably be able to tell me 1,000 things that's different from, let's say, the iPhone compared to the latest, flagship Samsung. But for me, they're both just phones that you can use to take pretty good pictures these days, pretty good videos these days, and, all of that. But in terms of how I use them, they're pretty much just, phones and cameras. But in terms of the ecosystem for Mac, like once I picked up the MacBook Pro, I got it. In terms of, how people are always like, oh yeah, it's great just sending stuff back and forth, because I make music. It's just a hobby of mine. So one of the things that I'll do as an example is I'll make like an instrumental on Beatmaker 3. And then I'm like, okay, well, if I want to put some lyrics on this, then I'm going to, drop this over to my MacBook Pro, or just put it into Dropbox and pull it back down through the MacBook Pro. If I want to put some, lyrics on it and then start putting it together in Logic or whatever. So, just using that is also a really cool thing about their ecosystem. But for everything else, I'm PC. So my desktop computer that I'm on right now is a PC. My standing desk that I have over here, this is also a Dell XPS laptop that runs that one over there. So I'm PC on everything else, but I'm dipping my toes in the in the Mac stuff. So it started with a phone, I think a iPhone 7. was my first iPhone.
Okay.
And I got that because one of the people that sponsor the channel, they had an app coming out. And they were like, hey, will you make a video for this? And I'm like, I would love to, but I don't have a phone. They're like, well, here, we'll get you one of these. So I'm like, cool. So I got that. And I was like, wow, this is a nice phone. And then, and then from there, I got the 8. And then I think I skipped the 9 and I went straight to the 10. Or was there even a 9?
There was not a 9.
Okay, yeah. So I went from the 8 to the 10 then, and then of course got the 11. When that came out as well. So I mean, I got the watch now. I got the whole, I got the whole thing. Like once you're in, they get you.
Oh yeah.
I get the headphones. I got the old ones. I got the new ones. You know what I mean? Like, once they get you, they get you.
Yeah, the Apple ecosystem is a beautiful thing. It's like a gift and a curse at the same time. Mm-hmm. So you said you just picked up a MacBook Pro. Which MacBook Pro did you pick up?
The 16.
Yeah.
So the main reason I got it is my website, the one that I talked about before that I created for my YouTube channel. With that website, basically we have like a front end store and then we have a members area. And with the Catalina update, they changed some codec things inside of the Macs. And I started getting customer service issues about compatibility with Final Cut and iMovie and things like that. Mm-hmm. So the reason that I actually got it was so that I can figure out a solution in terms of the compatibility, which I got worked out. But that's what I got it for. But I was like, well, if I'm getting it, like if I'm already going to spend the money to get it, I'm just going to like max it out and just get like a, pimped out one so that I can make sure that I'm seriously. So I'm like, if I'm going to get it, I'm going to make sure that if I like it, that I'm not going to be like, oh man, I wish I would have gotten a good one. Right. So I just went ahead and maxed it all out. And I started experimenting now with like Final Cut. We're making some assets for that. I'm using it now for music as well, like I mentioned before, just because Logic is awesome. What else? Yeah, really, those are the main things that I use it for now, for the most part. A little bit of Photoshop, but I can do that Photoshop on anything.
Right. So I know you normally don't edit your own video, but when you do edit video, do you use Adobe Premiere, I'm guessing, since it sounds like you're just new to Final Cut?
So I'm just new to Final Cut, but typically when I edit my own videos, I'll typically do it with Vegas. I know how to use Premiere, and I've been using Premiere more, but I'm just so fast in Vegas that, it's just a natural, thing for me, and it does all the things that I need it to do. But I know I've been practicing enough in Premiere that I can definitely navigate Premiere now, and I can edit a full video in there, no problem at all. But I'm just faster inside of Vegas.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, so now I have a question kind of for me, because you talked about something earlier that I've been considering, and I have heard everybody rave about this particular device. Can you talk to us more about the Rodecaster Pro, exactly what it is, what it does, and why people love it so much?
Absolutely. So the Rodecaster Pro is pretty much like it's like a standalone controller, and it's small enough that you can technically travel with it because it's thin, right? Like when it's on a desk, it sits up and it's blocky, but in reality, it's actually pretty thin in the middle. It just has a little bit of a bigger leg, so to speak, in the back end of it that makes it stick up. But it's a pretty thin device, so it's relatively easy to travel with, but basically, it's made for podcasting, and it has like 4 channels for audio, which basically means that you can have 4 different microphones going into it, and it's recording each one on its own individual track. So if you're a podcaster and you are currently using a Zoom as an example, and that Zoom, if you record 2 microphones into let's say like an H4n, then in that situation, you have 2 microphones going into it, and it's basically making 2 versions of the audio. But when it actually comes down, but it's basically making a stereo track that you have to bring into your software, and that you have to basically pan one track left, one track right, and then bring it back into the middle once you reprocess the audio in order to give you a good solid mono track for each. But with the Rodecaster Pro, it does that automatically. It didn't when it first came out, but now it does, to where it just separates everything. So for example, if I were to be recording this conversation right now, I could have Viper on one track, I would be on one track, my computer audio would be on another track. There's additional things in here as well in terms of, like if I wanted to connect my phone to it, if I wanted to have a Bluetooth, source coming in. I also have built-in sound pads for things like this. Right. And so you can trigger those sort of things on the fly. which is awesome. So for me, I absolutely love this thing just because of the ease of use. I love it because the processing on it is awesome. Like for live streams, it really just kind of helps give you, like a boomier voice, and, you can adjust it. So like if you want more bass in your voice, then you can go in there, you can add more, they call it big bottom. You can add more big bottom to give you like a stronger low end in your voice. If you want more high end in your voice, then you can go into their exciter and, kind of turn that up a little bit. It has it to where you can noise gate to where you're taking away all your background noise and that sort of thing as well. So just all the way around, it's fantastic. I can also, like, let's say that I hop on a call with a potential sponsor as an example. Let's take this and put it into the frame of a content creator. If I were to hop on a call with a potential sponsor, then to make sure that I'm fully, that I fully understand everything it is that we're talking about, I record those. So I can just hit that. I can just hit a button right now and I can start recording the conversation that we're having too. And that allows me to go back, listen to it again, make sure that I, fully, said everything, or that I fully understood the conversation, and so that I can make sure for my next conversation, see if I did anything that may have, kind of hurt the conversation, or that might have cost me money or, something like that. So it's good to, be able to just hit that button on the fly whenever you need to as well to record, whatever it is that you need to record. But overall, I love it. It even has like 4 different inputs or outputs for the headphones. So all 4 podcasters, if you were to do like a group podcast, then basically each person has their own mic, and then they also have their own audio signal that they can turn up or down based on their preference. But all the way around, I mean, it's just incredible.
All right, so right now I have the Scar. I mean, not the Scar. I have the Shure SM7V as my mic. I have it going into a cloud lifter, and the cloud lifter goes into the Scarlett 2i2. So if I were to get a Rode Procaster or Rodecaster Pro, however you want to call it, would I need the Scarlett interface, or would that just completely eliminate the need for the Scarlett interface?
It eliminates the need for the Scarlett. So I used to use the Scarlett as well. I actually still do. So basically I have one Scarlett 2i2 at my standing desk in case I take a call over there. And then I also have another Scarlett 2i2 here for my microphone that goes into the MacBook Pro. So that, for like any, audio that I put into the MacBook Pro, then I have the Scarlett going there. But for the Rodecaster Pro, it works as an interface. So it connects to your computer via USB. And you can actually set it up to where you can even record directly into the Rodecaster. And when you record into the Rodecaster, it has an option here to where you can just kind of open it up, and then you can access the files inside. So you can drag those files directly to your computer for additional processing if you want, or to package them up for a podcast, or however you want to do it. So like all the way around, it's great. Now, one thing that I do still use is the cloud lifter with this as well, just because you want that extra gain for these particular mics. I even used it when I was using the Procaster microphone, like we do in our live studio. Those are also just amazing microphones. But when we were using when I was using one here as well, I use the cloud lifter for that as well. And then I have a Rode Broadcaster for the stand-up setup back there.
Interesting. I mean, it's so crazy because that Rodecaster Pro is $600, but anybody who I asked about it, they're like, dude, best money I ever spent. Yeah,
it's great. It's great. Just the audio processing. Like and this is going to sound just petty, or let's just call it what it is. It's going to sound petty, but like there's something to be said, like when you're podcasting or when you're doing any type of thing like this, there's something to be said when you have headphones on, like you do right now, and you hear your voice and you're like, yeah, this sounds pretty good. But there's something to be said about when you're recording or you're doing something like this, when you're like over the moon about how your audio sounds, right? When you put on your headphones and you're like, oh man, I sound excellent. I sound professional. Everything is like leveled out. I'm being limited. I've got compressors running on this, in real time. You know what I mean? The processed sound, it's good for the brain when you are actually recording, because it gives you that extra oomph in terms of like, I don't even have to think about how I'm sounding because I know it's going to come across sounding good, right?
So are you saying that thing just handles all of that stuff automatically, or is that stuff you have to go in there and set, or what?
Well, they have like out of the box settings for it, But depending on your voice and things like that, you'd probably want to go in and make some adjustments. Like some people, for example, will turn off the big bottom if their voice is already bassy. Some people will turn off the Aphex Exciter if their voice is already nasally. Just little things like that. Like for me, I had to turn up the noise gate just a little bit more because typically I'll have like a fan or something like that across the room that's blowing on me. So just to make sure that was completely taken out, then I would then I turned up the noise gate just a tad to compensate for that. But there's plenty of great videos on YouTube on how to set it up properly. If you were to get one, like Mike Russell just put out a new one, going through all the manual settings on the best settings, and he's like an audio guy, but going through the best settings for making sure that your voice is tweaked right with the Rodecaster as well.
Interesting. Okay.
Not sponsored, by the way. Not sponsored, by the way.
No, of course not.
Rode, get at me. Come on, Rode.
Right. Why happened? What you waiting for, Rode? What you waiting for, my man?
I know, right?
For you, right?
Right.
All right. So sometime last year, something happened on YouTube, and I never saw it coming. I was shocked as hell, Nick, and it had something to do with you directly.
Uh-oh.
Oh yeah. I had no idea until last year that our boy Nick Nimmin can drop bars, y'all. And when I say drop bars, I mean legit rap like a boss. Like, sometimes when people are like starting to rap, you could tell that they're just getting into it and they don't really know how to flow. Not Nick Nimmin, man. Nick Nimmin could be mistaken for Vanilla Ice. The dude can rap like that.
Come on, man. That's like an insult. Vanilla Ice? Come on. Really?
I mean, but I'm not. I got. You know what I mean? You sound like you know what you're doing. You sound like you've been rapping for a while. So where did that come from? Because I had no idea you could rap.
Yeah, man. So basically, in my previous life before I moved to Thailand, I had like a home studio. And I started making like instrumentals. Like my brother, actually, he had a bunch of like, he had like an MPC and like all these keyboards and all this stuff. And since he was traveling the world at the time, he was like, hey, if you want to use this stuff, you can, whatever. So I'm like, yeah. So I got it all, and I built like this awesome like music desk for it and everything. And I learned how to use everything, and I got like really into it, and I was really enjoying it. And I added some other pieces to it and all that stuff. And I was making instrumentals, and then one of my friends heard it. And he was like, really? You made that? And I was like, yeah. And he said, hey, I've got some friends that are rappers. They'd probably really like to, get on this. And I'm like, have they recorded anything before? And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay, yeah, bring them down and we'll just, see kind of what happens. And then they came over, and, they loved the instrumentals, and they started rapping on them. And then next thing you know, I'm producing music for, like a nice handful of like local rappers and things like that. And, people are coming over all the time making music and stuff. And for me, when I was making the instrumentals, I would rap for the sake of the instrumental, right? So like I would put together a verse just so I could be like, okay, when they come down and they listen to this, like, where's it going to drop? Where do I need to, put something to, keep the interest going? Where do I need to put some ear candy, so to speak, to, to keep the whole thing moving? And then I started enjoying that. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this, as like a, fun hobby and like that sort of thing as well. And I still, to this day, like as I'm cruising around, if I hear another beat somewhere else, if I'm listening to a song or if I'm out doing something and I hear an instrumental in my brain, like I still, like I'll start putting together, little bars in my brain and, things like that. And it's just fun, like it's not something that I'll ever do anything with, but it's just fun to, to let that side out of yourself if it's something that you are you're interested in.
Listen, man, when I watched that Brian G. Johnson video that day, and this man Nick Nimmin came in and started spitting, but I'm like, whoa! Who is that? That is not the Nick Nimmin that I know. I don't know that man. Who is that man?
Right. What's funny with that is I wrote Brian's part too. So basically Brian hits me up and he was like, hey, Daniel made this like diss track or whatever. And he was like, I'm making something, and he sent me what he had wrote. And I'm like, dude, just go ahead and rip that up. I'll write something for you. And then I wrote something for him, and I did like a quick recording of it so he would know how it sounded. And I'm like, okay, when you record this, put on headphones so that you can, kind of mute, so the microphone's not going to pick up any of the music, and basically, do your part to the music. And he's like, okay, got it. And he would listen to the music instead of doing it the way that you should. He would listen to the music, turn off the music, and then say whatever it was that he was going to say. So like how he was landing on some of the things. Like he was all over the place. So when I put that song together, like I literally, dude, I was sliding him all over the place to make it work out. But it was fun. Like it ended up, turning out really good. So yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, man. Like I said, you are a natural rapper, dude. You definitely got the bars going, man. You got a good flow, man. I was shocked. I was like, whoa,
like,
yeah.
You should hear some of my like actual stuff. Like it's, like I actually have, nobody will ever hear it, but I've got some, I've got some pretty good like actual, stuff that I've that I put together.
Well, if you ever want to send me some stuff, feel free, man. I'll listen to it. Woo! Hey, you got it going on, man. You got it going on.
Thank you.
All right, so we got about 15 minutes left. So let's get into some of what Nick does on the regular basis here. So I'm curious. You obviously your niche is helping people grow their YouTube channel. So obviously there's a lot of new and up and coming creators that watch your content. So yes. What would you say, Nick, is the one mistake that you see a lot of new creators making on YouTube?
There's actually like the big elephant in the room is entitlement or expectations. So basically a lot of people will come onto YouTube and they think that, hey, if I just make a video and upload it, then I deserve views for that. And it just doesn't work that way, right? Like basically you're making videos for an audience, and the faster that you understand that, the faster that you're going to be able to, get traction, because you're going to start looking at yourself more as an entertainer or an educator or whatever it happens to be, instead of looking at, hey, I'm just going to do whatever I want. And then, I deserve views because I'm putting in all of this work. It just doesn't work that way. Like you have to make content that people respond to. And that expectation when you first come in of saying, hey, I'm going to get, a bunch of views just because I made something, is the wrong approach. Like a lot of people won't look at things objectively, right? It'll be like, hey, I just made this and it's awesome. Well, of course you think it's awesome because you made it. You wouldn't have made it, and you wouldn't have made those decisions when you were putting it together if you didn't think it was awesome. So of course you think it's great. But what you have to do is you have to see how people respond to it, once it's actually published, and then, start modifying from that very first video until you can get things to a point to where you can continually get that response from people. And, it's a mix of science and art, right? Because, you have all of the data that you have to work with, and, you make your core decisions based on that. But then you have the art side of just being creative when it comes to, how do I really grab somebody's attention with a thumbnail? Right? How do I really grab somebody when they're on YouTube and a homepage opens? They were not looking for my content. They weren't even expecting to watch it. How can I get somebody to click on my stuff when they're not even expecting to watch content like mine right now? Right. And applying the art side to that, in terms of just thinking like, okay, what is it that the people that are watching my content care about? What is it that they want to know about? Like in your case, with tech, like what are the things that people are really wanting to know when it comes to iPhones? Like as an example, or when it comes to just tech in general, like for example, a lot of people will think like, well, hey, people just want to know what camera it is, or hey, people just want to know, what the speed of the phone is. But, there's also the other side of things. If you go deep inside of people, which are, like, hey, I want to make sure that I'm not making a bad purchasing decision here, right? I want to make sure that I'm not going to have buyer's remorse after I pick this thing up, right? So, explaining that or illustrating that, in your thumbnail in some way or in your title in some way, so that you can, connect to that person that might be getting ready to make that purchase, before you get your iPhone, you need to watch this video, right? Something like that in terms of the title, to where if it happens to them, they're like, oh, wait a minute, I am getting ready to watch one or getting ready to get one. So let me, click on this and see what's up. So, making sure that you are really thinking about who it is that you are trying to reach with your content is really important. But that went a little bit more than that one, that one thing from the outside. But just to keep stacking onto that in terms of mistakes that people typically make, they have the entitlement side of things. They have the not thinking through the viewer experience, because when you're thinking of the viewer experience, you have to think about if my video is getting suggested next to or under another video on YouTube. If somebody does decide to click on that, first I got to figure out how to get them to click. But if they do click on that, from the moment they click on it to the time they click and watch another video, what are they actually experiencing on my channel? Where am I wasting their time, right? Am I wasting their time with this big, long intro that they don't care about? Am I wasting their time with this big, long channel introduction that nobody cares about? When's the last time, man? When's the last time that you went onto YouTube and you're like, man, I cannot wait to get on YouTube and look at some intros?
I hate that. Let me just interrupt real quick. When I click on a video, and especially when it's a new creator that I don't know, the first thing I see is a channel intro. I'm like, what is this? I don't know you. No.
Right.
And then sometimes it'd be like at least 15, 30 seconds. I'm like, whoa. I click off,
Right.
Nick. I click off automatically. I'm done.
Yeah. And that's a very common thing. Sometimes people will stick around for them, but most of the time people will click off. And the idea is, like, especially if you put it at the very beginning, that's like video suicide, right? Yeah. Putting it at the very beginning, you got to at least give them something. Let them know that they clicked the right video.
Right.
Yeah. So, but just little things like that, just thinking through the video or the viewer experience when they're watching your videos, and then also using, like your audience retention reports to make sure that, the interpretation of how you think they're experiencing the content is matching up to how they're actually experiencing the content as well. That's another really important thing. Also, it's really important to balance out the amount of uploads that you make compared to the amount of time that you put into videos, especially when you're first getting started. I mean, you want to make a splash, so you want your stuff to be dope. But on the other hand, you also don't want to waste 2 weeks of time making a video where you could spend like a week making that video or 4 days making that video so that you can get out more videos to help you accelerate things a little bit faster, right? So, just kind of balancing out, hey, is this good enough compared to like, this is as best as it could possibly be right now? Because those first videos, not a lot of people are going to be watching them, right? So typically, because of that, you want them to be good. You definitely want to be good. You have to be able to compete on YouTube. But on the flip side, they don't need to be, something that you would see on Netflix.
Right? right. Definitely. So, as a YouTube guru, can you talk to new creators or just all creators in general about the importance of audio?
Of audio?
Yes.
Well, when it comes to audio is half of the video experience, right? Mm-hmm. So when somebody is watching a video, the part that they're not paying attention to, usually if it's good, is the audio. But as soon as you have bad audio, all of a sudden it starts taking someone's attention away from the actual video because they realize how crappy the audio is. So because of that, making sure that your audio is at least at a acceptable level for your videos is critical. Because, like you can even, there's videos on YouTube that demonstrate this, but basically if you have a video that's like, okay, like your video quality is okay, it's acceptable, it's not fantastic, but your audio sounds great, then that's still a fantastic video experience. You could have the best looking optics in the world. You could be using like one of the red, $28,000 camera, things on it, but you could be using one of the best cameras in the world. But then if you have bad audio, then it's going to be a very bad video experience for the person that's coming through. So because of that, audio is extremely important when it comes to making YouTube videos. And as a content creator, your audio upgrade should be one of the first investments that you make in your channel, if not the first investment that you make in your channel.
Absolutely. And to his point, I told this story a few times on this podcast, but I'll tell it again. When I first started making YouTube videos, I was doing everything on an iPad Pro. I was using the internal mic of the iPad Pro to record my audio. And I got a DM in a Discord server from one of my friends who's like, yo, I love your content, but you got to do something about your audio because it sounds like you're underwater, this, that, and the other. So I went out, I think next day or a couple of days after, and I bought the Blue Yeti, and the rest is history. But audio is critical in making video because, like Nick said, it's something that as a viewer, as a creator, you might not think about too much, but the moment your audio is bad, that affects the entire video, and it's just a bad experience all around. So make sure, if you do nothing else, if you're starting out, make sure you get your audio in order, and everything else will take care of itself.
Even if you're on a budget, then you can use like a Boya BY-M1. It's a lavalier mic. It has a really long cord on it. Like if you're making content on your phone and you're like, hey, I do need to improve my audio. Basically, it's a lapel mic. You can clip it right here on your shirt or on your jacket or something. And that mic, the idea is you want the microphone as close to your mouth as you can get it. But basically, like that mic just by itself can be a massive improvement for you. And I think it's like $20. You might have to get your adapter for your iPad or whatever device you're recording into. But the microphone itself for $20, you can't beat it.
Definitely. And funny story, the mic that me and Nick are currently talking into for this podcast, this Shure SM7B, I brought this mic because I was tired of everybody coming on my podcast sounding better than me. So I went out and brought this, and I don't regret any of it. It's an expensive mic, it's an expensive setup, but y'all see how good my audio sounds. So I'm telling you, audio is
and that's the thing with this stuff, right? Is like as you get going, you're doing the things you just mentioned, like your part of your momentum is okay, you had people in your Discord server say, hey, you need to upgrade your audio. So you're like, hey, I went out a couple of days later, got upgraded my audio. I invested in what it is that I'm doing. And then, a little bit down the road, you started thinking like, hey, these people are coming on my podcast sounding better than me. I need to at least be, matching their standards. So you invested again. Hey, I'm going to invest in my equipment, invest in the experience that I'm giving people. And, that's how you win. Ultimately making awesome content and continuing to invest in yourself in terms of, getting your gear to a point to where it's at least at an acceptable level or better. And then of course, continually educating yourself because all this stuff is constantly changing
all the time. So let's talk about this mic real quick. I told the people why I brought the mic, but why do you use the Shure SM7B?
For me, again, I'm not a tech person. So before I got it, I didn't look at like any of the specs or anything like that. But what I did see is I saw that Michael Jackson recorded a bunch of stuff on this. And I was like, hey, if it's good enough for Michael Jackson,
yeah,
then I'll take it. But, I watched some videos from Podcastage also where he was like, reviewing it and comparing it to other mics and stuff. And it was just an upgrade. Like, to be honest with you, I can't see a huge difference from this and my Procaster because the Procaster is also a really good mic. So I can't see a huge difference between the two. But, it's kind of like one of those things to where after you get it, it's like, man, I spent a lot of money on this, so I'm going to make sure I use the heck out of it type of thing. Yep. Like, but to be honest with you, like I could take this or leave it compared to the Rodecaster or the Broadcaster that I have back there.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm happy with it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was doing a lot of comparisons between this and the Procaster too. So like you said, not a huge difference, but I just went ahead with it because like Michael Jackson used it. Michael Jackson used it. Right. It must be good, right?
Right. If the king can use it, then hey, it's good enough for us. Right.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So I want to go back to talking about you and what you look for when you buy a new phone, because I know you said you get the new iPhones every year, but as you have admitted on this podcast several times already, you are not a hardcore techie. So I'm curious, as you being not so much in the tech, what are the things that you look for when you buy a new smartphone? What do you need in your smartphone?
So basically, the thing that got me on the iPhone 10 was Andrew Edwards. So I was at Vid Summit, and I think I had already upgraded to the 8, but I was like, yeah, I'm not going to upgrade from here. I'm just going to stick with this for a while. And at the time, the 10 had just come out, and gosh, was it the 10 or the 11? One of the two, but I was at Vid Summit and I was talking to Andrew and I was like, yeah, I'll just, hype around the phone, whatever. He's like, dude, you're a content creator, you use this stuff for content. Like, you need to upgrade your phone. And I was like, well, yeah, he's right. I'm like, yeah, he's right. So I went to the mall and I picked one up at that time, whatever it happened to be, either the 10 or the 11. But then from there, I still keep that mindset when it comes to the phones. I'm like, if I am doing stories with it, if I am doing something, or if I do want to shoot something when I'm out, be it a photo that I'm going to post somewhere or, a little video clip I'm going to post somewhere, then I do want it to be as high quality as I can right now. And, also having the iPad and the watch and all that stuff and how it all works together. I mean, I'm in. So I'll continue upgrading until they make a huge mistake. But when it comes to the new one that'll probably come out soon, I'm not 100% sure if I'll upgrade, and I'm saying that now. But in reality, I'll probably end up getting one of those too, even though I probably shouldn't, just because there'll be something in there in terms of it works better in terms of the video file type, or that the camera is a little bit better, or whatever it happens to be. So I'll probably end up upgrading to that, to that as well.
Gotcha. All right, I'm going to leave about 5 or 10 minutes for you guys to ask Nick any questions if you want to. So if you guys got any questions for him, now is the time. And if you guys don't speak up, I'm going to go ahead and put the kibosh on this. But it is question and answer time with Nick Nimmin. So
all right.
You guys got any questions for our buddy Nick here? I know,
this is always my favorite. I love Q&A because you get to ask, you get to answer questions like directly that, that people care about. And I absolutely love that.
Yeah, and I know when you're your live stream, you usually have like 300-400 people in your live stream, so people might not get to get their questions answered. So we got 29 people here. It'll be pretty simplistic. All right, I saw one. We got a Crypto and Coffee wants to know, Nick, thoughts on the H6?
So I have an H6 in the other room. It's my brother's actually, and I haven't really messed with it that much. So basically, my Zoom experience is I've messed a little bit with the H6, but not a ton. But I route my audio for my standing camera for the Canon. I route my audio for that. For the mic, I route it through the H4n. I'm happy with the H4n. I'm happy with how it sounds. I actually did Another podcast with a friend of mine a few years back with the H4n as well. Happy with it. But I don't have enough experience with the H6 to really walk down a rabbit hole, so to speak, in terms of, if it's good or how it compares to the other stuff.
Okay. All right. Anybody got any other questions for Nick? Oh, I have a question for you. With you having over 600,000 subscribers, how often do you get recognized in public?
When I go to the States, it happens, on occasion. Here, it also happens on occasion because the area that I live in, it's Chiang Mai, Thailand, and it's like a digital nomad hotspot. And one of the things that a lot of digital nomads explore as, like an additional thing to bring exposure to their business is YouTube. And that typically, gets, they'll run across my content because of that. So from time to time, I'll get recognized here publicly as well. But, not too much, but, it's always fun, in those situations.
It's kind of crazy that people actually get you and Nimmin confused. I can tell you guys apart instantly, but for whatever reason, other people just seem to get you guys confused. It's weird.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like that in real life too. Like people will, like sometimes you'll go in, like if we go into, like let's say we're in the States and we go into a Subway, or here, like let's say that we are in Thailand and we go into like a massage parlor, then like there'll be, people that'll be like, oh my God, are you guys twins? And then there's other people, like you're saying, to where they're like, yeah, I don't even see the resemblance, between you two. So, it just depends on, the brain of the person that happens to be, looking at us, I guess.
I mean, I see the resemblance. I'm not, you guys do look alike, but you guys aren't like twins. I don't know why people. All right. So Dale says StreamYard, Zoom, or Discord for multi-people videos like this.
I think StreamYard. I think StreamYard is a fantastic tool. It's what we're using right now. I think it's a fantastic tool. It's easy to use. Zoom is also easy as well, and you can record directly in Zoom. So if you are doing something to where you do need to record, then in that situation, then like Zoom would be a great solution for you. But if you're just like, hey, I just want to go live quickly, easily, and I want to bring on a guest to hang out or a handful of guests to hang out, then in that case, definitely StreamYard is the win for me in that situation.
Definitely. And something that I keep forgetting to mention when I'm doing these live streams is that I'm actually partnered with StreamYard. So if you guys want to sign up for StreamYard, there's a link in my description. If you guys sign up for a paid membership, I actually get an affiliate commission from that. So I would definitely highly recommend you guys consider StreamYard. They actually have a free edition too if you just want to try it out. But definitely try out StreamYard. It's legit. I use it nonstop pretty much, and I love it. Love the way it works. So Crypto and Coffee says, thoughts on how to use adequate sound suppression for quality with StreamYard.
So if you're doing everything on the hardware side, then you might want to turn off StreamYard's processing. So basically in your audio settings inside of StreamYard, they have an option to disable audio processing. So if you're routing, like if you're doing everything at the hardware level, before you actually go live, and while you're live, then in that situation, I would just disable the audio processing inside of StreamYard. That's what I do. So that it's running my processing and not the StreamYard processing.
Definitely. Sabotage wants to know, what do you think about the Adobe Creative Cloud pricing model?
That's the way of the world right now. Like everybody's going for the subscription-based thing. I mean, I have a subscription-based, website as well, to where, I charge people a monthly fee to access everything that's in there. I think that, for the consumer, I think it's good as long as they're getting the value out of it. But if they are not getting the value out of it, just like everything else, then, they should cancel that subscription. When it comes to Adobe is a core part of my business, and it's been that way for over a decade, probably 2 decades now. So because of that, for me, like I'll be an Adobe customer for the foreseeable future. And that's just because they make awesome products. So, Adobe Audition, for example, it's what I use to, process, all of the audio in the back end and all of that good stuff. And like for videos and that sort of thing, Premiere, I dabble in there a little bit, but we make assets for that in my web store, in my membership area. So because of that, having Premiere in here, it actually makes me money because I can make stuff for Premiere. And of course, Photoshop, that makes me money as well, helps me make awesome thumbnails that grabs people's attention and that sort of thing also. But it helps me because I can make assets to sell inside of Photoshop. So like my Creative Cloud subscription, like having that subscription, a lot of people would be like, oh, it sucks that I'm having to pay out. But, like little things like that, if you can find a way to think, okay, I've got these tools at my disposal, what can I make to where I can actually sell some stuff online so that I can, at the very least, get my Adobe subscription paid for? that's a fantastic approach to take.
Gotcha. So this one's actually part of a two-parter that Stephanie Marie put up, but she wants to know, how do you get past the fear of caring about how you look on camera? Because I think she was asking, a lot of times she can't record a video front to back because she's concerned about how she looks on camera with makeup and things like that. So she's asking, how do you get past just worrying about how you look and just do the damn thing?
That's a great question. And it's a great question because a lot of people have that problem, right? A lot of people have that issue to where, for whatever reason, they don't like either how their voice sounds, or they don't like how they look on camera and things like that. And I had the same exact thing. Like, I didn't want to be that person on camera. That's why my very first video on YouTube is about how to overcome camera shyness, because I had to overcome all of these things in my brain. Like, and these are probably some of the things that you run through, when you're having these issues is, I had in my brain, I had like, oh, my brother's going to give me a hard time if he ever sees this, but now he's got a play button, right? But at the time, I'm like, like, if my brother sees this, it's going to give me a hard time. If friends or family back home see this, they're going to give me a hard time about it. I'm going to have kids give me a hard time because, when I started my channel, I'm like in my 30s already. So I'm like, I'm going to have, that whole thing because I'm like an older person, so to speak, going onto YouTube. So I'm going to get that blowback. And I had all these things rattling around in my brain. And it was so bad that I even wore makeup for my first handful of videos because I saw they did that on the news. So I'm like, hey, if they do this on the news, then maybe, I should cover up the dark spots under my eyes. And maybe, like this freckle right here, I should cover that up. And maybe, this little bit of redness here that shows that I'm a human being, maybe I should, cover that up as well. And I did that for my first handful of videos as my crutch to help me get started. And then after that, it really starts coming down to practice, because the more you do something, the more comfortable you get at it. And it's a very freeing thing when you can get to the point to where you literally do not care. Like I can make a video right now and I can do pretty much anything and I don't care. So like I give it to Vigard, and like when he's editing stuff, I'm like, okay, whatever he comes out with, he has, he makes good choices when it comes to editing. So whatever he ends up putting in the video, like I'm fine with it. It doesn't matter. And that just comes from practice. And it also comes from, confidence as well, because, part of being a content creator is the thing that you're struggling with, which is, being confident enough to continually put yourself on camera and continually put yourself out there. And part of giving yourself a hard time is you're kind of imagining in a way how other people might perceive what it is that you're doing or how you look and things like that. And so you have all those thoughts in your brain. But the best thing that you can do in that situation is you can just say, hey, what I'm doing with my content is I'm trying to put out content that is of value to people. And it doesn't matter, how I look, because like how I look is how people see me in real life. Like Viper, when we met at Vid Summit, right? I look just like this. You look just like that, right? So like when you're on camera, like the only thing that you are, like when you have those hangups, like you're just hanging up on stuff that everybody else around you experiences anyway. So like, you're like, oh, I don't like how I look on camera. Newsflash. The reason you don't like how you look on camera is because you're not used to seeing yourself when you don't look into a mirror. So because of that, like, you're seeing yourself on camera, you're seeing your mouth move in ways that you don't normally see. Because when you're looking in a mirror, you're kind of posing for yourself, or you're looking at something, or, whatever happens to be. Right. So, you get to see yourself in your natural state. But in reality, that's how everybody in the world sees you. Like when you go to Starbucks, that's exactly what people see. When you go to the mall, that's what people see. When you're hanging out with your friends, that's what people see. And it's actually, they see even more than that, because like on camera, you're probably a little bit like reserved, but like when you're hanging out with buddies and stuff, you do all kinds of, you do all the like you might laugh a little bit harder than you normally would and make some weird, things with your face and that sort of thing. So what it is that you're seeing on camera is actually like a controlled version of yourself. But really the best way to get through it is just to make a ton of videos. And the more that you make videos and you start getting some feedback on what it is that you're doing, those thoughts of, how you are on camera or how you look on camera, they're definitely going to fade away. For some people, it's going to take a longer period of time than others. But it's definitely, part of the process. Like one of the things that you hear people talk about on YouTube and like when they do stage presentations and things like that, even in music, is finding your voice. And what that basically is that's basically practicing so much and doing the thing that you're doing so much that you finally find a place that you're comfortable, and the version of yourself that you're comfortable with putting out on camera continues to come out every single time that you upload. And that is like your voice. Like you found your sweet spot in terms of how you present, how you communicate on camera and things like that. And it's something that you're proud of. So you kind of keep rolling with that. So, the thing that you're going through is just a natural progression when it comes to YouTube and doing anything like this, where you're putting yourself in the public like that, to where you're going through the process of going from, right now I'm not comfortable. And eventually you're going to be in a point to where you're not going to think about that anymore. I mean, of course, You're going to be like, hey, is my hair okay? Do I have anything in my teeth? Are my eyes bloodshot? Is there anything that, that I need to be mindful of? That's always going to be there. But outside of that, like in terms of how you communicate on camera, it's just going to become a natural thing for you eventually. But you just have to fight through this part right now in order to get to that point. That's why people like Roberto Blake, for example, that's why they recommend that you make 100 crappy videos. And the reason behind that is because all of the things that you learn while you're making that 100 crappy videos, in addition to learning things on the YouTube side, learning things on the production side, you also learn things about yourself in terms of, how you're communicating on camera, the things that you like about how you communicate on camera, the things that you don't like about how you communicate on camera, and you modify those over time during that first 100 crappy videos, so that by the time you get to 101, you're practiced enough that you turn on a camera and you can just go for it and you feel great about it. Like another thing to think about is, and this one's going to sound a little bit weird, but like if you typically make your videos sitting down as an example, try standing up. See if that changes things. If you typically make your videos standing up, try making them sitting down and see if that matters. Like for me, when I make my content sitting down, if I batch create content, let's say I make 4 videos and I'm sitting down, by the time I'm done with the 4th video, like when I shut the camera off and I'm done, I'm spent. I'm like, whew, glad that's over. But when I do the content when I'm standing up, by the time I'm done with that 4th video, I'm like, all right, I got to come up with an idea. Let me do a quick list video off the top of my head, because sure, I got another one in me. And then when that one's done, I'm like, you know what, maybe I'll make another one real quick. Just because I'm just fired up because of the energy that I'm able to maintain when I'm standing up, because I'm moving all over the screen and, like I'm just more active, and that keeps my energy up. So, the little tricks like that can also be beneficial depending on how you're putting your content together.
No doubt. So Backwards Lawn Care wants to know, I'm the only Canadian lawn care channel on YouTube. How can I compare it to all the others in the States that have way more product at their disposal?
Make more content so that you can eventually start reaching out to people to give you content or give you products. So basically, one of the things, and this happens in the tech space too, but like one of the things that happens is, and it's so weird how it works, but I mean, it makes sense. But like when people are first starting with all this stuff, like they got to buy all the stuff, and like just like in tech, you got to put all this money out on all the things that you're doing. But then by the time you start doing well on YouTube and you're generating revenue to where you can pay for all that stuff without even thinking about it, then that's when people start giving you stuff for free. Right. So what you need to do is you need to get yourself to the point to where you have enough content out there that's performing well enough through the reviewing the stuff that you have already, that you can start going on the radar of people that make those products. So here's what I recommend. Everything that you currently use, and this has worked time and time again, this is a repeatable thing and it works. So as long as you're putting together good content, good quality content, you're getting some views on it, every single time you publish a video and you're doing lawn care stuff. So let's say you're covering like a lawnmower, tweet at that lawnmower company and mention, hey, I just did this thing for I don't know, John Deere lawnmowers. I don't know if that's who makes lawnmowers, but basically, hey, I just made this review of a John Deere lawnmower, and then you tag John Deere. Hey, we're talking about this rake, and I'm going to tag the person that, or the company that makes this rake, and then you start doing that on a regular basis. And while you're doing that, you're also trying to connect with their marketing people on LinkedIn. You're also trying to connect with them through DM on Twitter as well, or maybe sending emails to them, letting them know what it is that you're doing. And you can simply ask, once those conversations start opening up for you, or they start noticing that you're making a lot of content about them, you can simply ask for review models of all the things that they use. And when you're asking for review models, you're not saying, give me this thing and I'm going to keep it forever. You're saying, hey, I'm going to make a video about your thing. So if you can, send me this product for review, and then I send it back when it's done, then that will, give you the opportunity to be able to tap into a lot more products at your disposal without having to spend, a lot of money getting going.
Definitely. Hey, Lisa, thank you for the super chat. I'm gonna come back to your other question that you have for Nick, but thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you. Mm-hmm. All right, so Dale wants to know, Nick, where can people find, or where can people listen to the rap song from your intro?
All from my intro. Yeah, so that one, I don't know if I have that anywhere publicly, but like the song from the intro, I'm not on that one. I have a version that I'm on it, but that's actually one of the songs that I made for one of the groups that I worked with. And yeah, that particular one, I don't think that there's a version of it publicly on the internet that I can think of off the top of my head. There might be somewhere, but I don't think that there is. So yeah, as of right now, all you get's the intro. I think I had. It might be my 50,000 subscriber video, actually, either my 50,000 or my 100,000 subscriber video. There's one of them where I did this sequence at the beginning, where I went through this, process of growth, celebrating all these different milestones and stuff. I might have it at the beginning of that video, possibly, and I think I've done it on a couple of live streams now that I think about it.
All right. We got two more questions. Number one, Jennifer Joy, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you. She wants to know, Nick, what is one of the best comments you ever received and why?
Nice. So, so one of the best, I wouldn't say it's a comment, but it's a piece of feedback that I got is, I actually had somebody make a video, and this person, this is a long time ago. I probably had maybe 10,000 subscribers at the time, maybe 15, maybe 20. I don't know. But basically I was doing my live streams, and this person came into my live stream, and one of the things that I'll do in the live streams is, I just shout people out. I thank people for coming to the stream, and she came into the live stream and she asked a question. So, I shouted her out. I'm like, hey, welcome to the stream. Thanks for stopping by. And I think she might've been new to YouTube at the time. So I'm like, hey, good luck with your channel, this, that, and the other thing. And then I ended up answering her question, and she ended up making a video, and she sent me an email, with a link to the video with a, big, long, explanation of everything. But I went and I watched the video, and basically her story was that she kind of moves through her life, and she feels invisible. She feels that nobody notices her in any way, shape, or form in her life, and that she feels invisible pretty much in every aspect of her existence. And she said for her, she doesn't know why, but having that attention put on her in the live stream to where somebody like recognized her and noticed her, it really made a big impact on her for some reason. And like while she was making the video, she like started like crying and all this stuff. Like it just really impacted her for some reason. And for me, that was a really cool thing because that let me know that just something that people typically just take for granted in terms of just like shouting somebody out in a stream, that's another place that that you might not know that you're also impacting people. So you impact people with the content that you make, but even little gestures like that, just little things to where you're giving somebody a shout out or you're answering somebody's question or something like that can bring a lot of joy to people, or just bring a lot of just a good feeling, maybe not a lot of, but just a good feeling in terms of them being recognized in a world where they normally don't feel recognized. So that was great. But in addition to that, I continually get emails and things like that about people saying, hey, my YouTube channel sucked, and then I found your channel, and then now I've got 100,000 subscribers or 10,000 subscribers, or whatever it is that they're celebrating at that time. I'll get emails like that on a regular basis, and those are always awesome because I know like if they're watching my content, then my vibe is typically pretty positive. And I keep that vibe because the way that I look at YouTube and creating content just in general is that every single person, if we like it or not, when we're consuming content in written form or in audio form or video form, like every single thing that we hear, every single thing that is going into our brains is impacting us in some way in terms of the thoughts that we might have later in the day, or the way that we feel, or whatever it happens to be. So like I always try to keep a positive vibe with what it is that I'm doing because I understand that. And I think that when people are reaching these milestones because they came across the channel and it helped them understand the foundations of YouTube and how to move forward, I always hope that those people are putting something else positive out into the world that's creating some type of ripple in terms of like, hey, this is a pretty positive channel here, because I try to keep everything clean, family friendly, sponsor friendly, and just try to keep everything positive. So, when I get those pieces of feedback, one of the things that always makes me feel good is I'm like, okay, well, if they are giving me some credit for their achievement, then that means that hopefully they've been involved enough in my content to hopefully be, taking a similar approach in terms of, just putting good out there, in terms of just sprinkling in from time to time a little bit of hope for people, lifting people up in some way, maybe motivating people to, think a little bit different, like that kind of stuff, within the content that they're doing as well. So
awesome. And our last question comes from Letha, and Letha wants to know, Nick, how did you end up living in Thailand?
So I actually got out of a relationship, and the relationship, it was like 6 years that we were together at that time. And when we broke up, I had we were together. So mentally, it was just kind of like I had a rough time with it. And my brother was living here already because he was already doing the digital nomad thing, traveling all over the world and stuff. And with him, he was like, hey, you're having trouble with this. If you want to come to Thailand, and if you can take a month and come over here and just hang out, kind of experience something different, and, kind of get your mind off of, what it is that you're going through. All expense paid trip, come over, hang out, and I'll take you around the country, show you some of the cool beaches, things like that. And I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do it. So I came over here at that time, expecting a vacation. And when I came over for the vacation, we hung out, had a great time, hanging out with him. But then I also saw what was here in terms of just the lifestyle. So I told him, I was like, man, I'd love to, stay here, but, I have my businesses back in the States. I can't. And he said that, he's like, if you do want to, ever walk down this road, he's like, I'll mentor you and, show you how to get clients online and, kind of help you get started. If you want to, start going down this road. I'm like, actually, yeah, because this is great. This is amazing here. So yeah, I want to do that. So then immediately started working on, him showing me how to get clients online and, how to leverage the skills that I already had to, start, doing service type things for people on the internet and that kind of thing. So that's how I ended up here.
Nice. Nick Nimmin, awesome conversation, man. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you.
Likewise, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you as well. And everybody hanging out in the stream. I hope that you got some good information, that you enjoyed yourself. Everybody listening to this on Apple, make sure that you give this a 5-star rating.
Right, baby. That's right. Before we get out of here, I know most of the people on YouTube already know the deal, but for those of them listening on audio, how can they find you, Nick Nimmin? How can they find you?
So for those of you listening on audio, I also have a podcast. If you want to learn about YouTube over a cup of coffee, it's called Comments Over Coffee. He can put it in the show notes here, but it's called Comments Over Coffee. And the whole idea is where you learn about YouTube over a cup of coffee. So it's typically shorter form content between 10 and 20 minutes most of the time. So it's just a great way to get some bite-sized, versions of, of what you need to do on YouTube. But outside of that, you can go to nicknimmin.com, NICKNIMMIN.com, and all roads lead to Rome. I actually have a course that I'm launching soon. So you definitely, if you're trying to figure out what's up with YouTube, you definitely want to participate in that as well. You can find everything it is that you need to know about me over at nicknimmin.com.
Awesome. Shout out to those of y'all that are watching the podcast live on YouTube today. Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys. If you super chatted, brought me a coffee, became a channel member, any of that good stuff, thank you. Definitely appreciate you guys rocking out with me and Nick Nimmin on this episode of VypDrive. Appreciate you guys. Shout out to those of y'all listening on audio only this week. Thank you for listening to another episode of VypDrive with me and my man Nick Nimmin. I appreciate you guys rocking out. Again, if you want to donate to the podcast, there will be links in the show notes. If you want to follow Nick, he just gave you all the info. But if you missed it, it'll be in the show notes. So all his information will be down there for you. So definitely go check out my man Nick. He is legit. He is the man. Also, if you happen to be listening to this, like Nick said, on Apple Podcasts, please consider leaving that rating or review, trying to get more people to discover the show. And that goes a long way to get the show discovered on Apple Podcasts. So please, if you're listening on Apple, consider doing that. But that will be it. We're done. Thank you to my man Nick Nimmin again.
Thank you, man. Thank you again, man. I hope some value was gained here from the people, participating. I hope some value was gained, man. And I appreciate you having me on, and I'll see you soon.
For those of y'all that watch on YouTube, I'll be live on Wednesday with my man Des from T-Mobile. So that'll be the next episode of VypDrive unless something changes. Other than that, but until the next time, people, this your boy Viper, the man about tech. You know where to find me. So come back for more.